German soldiers strip the clothing from a Soviet female soldier, bind her limbs, and hang her from a wooden post. They repeatedly lash her with a whip, and because of her gender, she is reduced to an object of abuse. When her body is later discovered, not only are her legs blown apart beyond recognition, but her eyes and left breast have also been cruelly cut away. When Stalin learns of this tragedy, he is so enraged that he issues a ruthless order. Any officer or soldier of the German 332nd Regiment is to be killed on sight. No surrender accepted. She is the first woman to receive the title of Hero of the Soviet Union, the fallen martyr Zoya. As the German soldiers burst into the wooden house and slam the door shut, Zoya recalls the brief 18 years of her life. On June 21, 1941, 17-year-old Zoya still dreams that after graduation, she will become a teacher like her mother. But at dawn on the 22nd, German forces emerge through the morning fog and launch a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. From that moment on, fate is completely rewritten. On the streets of Moscow, propaganda posters everywhere display a striking question: how will you support the front line? Men pick up rifles, willing to give their lives for their country. Civilian factories voluntarily convert to military production. Machine plants begin making tanks and explosives. Watch factories switch to producing mine detonators. Everyone supports the front in their own way. At this time, unwilling to remain in the rear sewing military backpacks, Zoya does something no one expects. Having just turned 18, she arrives at the recruitment office with a solemn expression, determined to go to the battlefield. Despite repeated refusals from officers, Zoya, fluent in German, ultimately convinces them with her unwavering resolve and is approved for enlistment. At the training camp, the officer speaks frankly: the mission you are about to carry out has almost no chance of survival. If captured by the Germans, your fate will be worse than death. Yet Zoya keeps smiling as she listens. When the officer angrily scolds her, Zoya's reply moves everyone present.
Так что вас развеселило?
Но разве это не счастье умереть за свою родину, за своих близких?
Стать в строй.
What should have been 3 months of training is compressed into just 2 days, and each person is issued only one bullet, because they will have only one chance to fire, not to kill the enemy, but to end their own lives if captured. Before departure, Stalin personally comes to see this unit off. When he reaches Zoya, the vow spoken by this young woman leaves a deep impression on him.
Не боитесь?
Нет, не боюсь.
А если к врагам попадешь?
Все выдержу.
Under the cover of night, the team reaches a road the German army must pass and prepares an ambush. But when the detonator is pressed, the explosives fail to go off. Seeing that the best moment is about to slip away, a teammate risks his life and rushes forward to check the explosives. With a thunderous blast, towering flames erupt and engulf the German soldiers. Although the ambush successfully halts the enemy, the teammate is also knocked unconscious by the explosion. Zoya crawls toward him without hesitation, desperately trying to wake him up. At that moment, a German soldier whose body is on fire charges straight at Zoya, intending to die together with her. Facing a life-or-death decision, the squad leader has no choice but to risk exposure and fire his only bullet, killing the attacker. The sudden gunshot alerts the German troops, who immediately begin firing wildly at the team. Amid the deafening gunfire, one comrade after another falls. On her very first mission, Zoya is the only one in the entire squad who survives. The brutality of war leaves a deep scar in the heart of this 18-year-old girl.
Уже больше не смешно.
Не смешно, товарищ Цветков.
Каждый, кто оттуда возвращается, уже другой. Внутри. Другой.
If destiny must be changed, then the right to change it must be seized with one's own hands. It is precisely because war is so cruel that someone must stand in front of the people. From the moment Zoya cuts off her long hair, innocence is completely replaced by unyielding resolve. In November 1941, German forces push straight toward Moscow, even boasting that they will enter the Kremlin by Christmas. But this delusion becomes increasingly unreachable under the fierce resistance of the Soviet Red Army. Overconfident German troops fail to prepare winter clothing and lack fuel, forcing them to halt outside Moscow. They seize large numbers of civilian homes to survive the harsh winter. However, as the scorched earth orders are issued, the Soviet forces swear to drive the Nazis into the freezing cold.
Ребята, постарайтесь вернуться живыми. Это все, о чем я могу вас попросить.
Zoya's unit receives orders to infiltrate a village that very night and burn down all the houses occupied by German troops. Long periods of hiding have already drained their physical strength, and before departure, Each person is given only a small handful of coarse grain. This is the only food they will have in 5 days. The three split up as planned and quietly move into the village, with the squad leader launching the first attack. Molotov cocktails quickly set the houses ablaze, and upon seeing the flames, Zoya prepares to act as well. But suddenly, a Soviet boy steps out of one of the houses, and a brief moment of hesitation completely disrupts the plan. German soldiers rush out, putting out the fire while searching for the arsonists. The squad leader narrowly avoids capture and escapes by luck. Zoya also takes advantage of the chaos and runs toward the edge of the village, but is stopped by the village head. At a glance, the village head recognizes who Zoya is, and instead of making things difficult for her, he urges her to run quickly. However, another comrade is not so fortunate. He tries to disguise himself as a villager and slip away quietly, but is captured by the Germans on the spot. Zoya keeps running forward without daring to stop for even a second, but slips and falls into a deep pit. When she wakes up again, she finds herself surrounded by the bodies of fallen Soviet soldiers. Zoya searches desperately among the corpses, because even a piece of spoiled bread could mean a chance to survive. In her fear, she looks down and notices the Molotov cocktail, and suddenly realizes that the mission is not yet finished. An overwhelming sense of guilt causes Zoya's body to tremble uncontrollably. She makes a silent decision to return to the village alone, determined to complete the mission even if it costs her life. But after the previous attack, the Germans are already on high alert, and before she can act, she is discovered, exhausted, freezing, and starving. Zoya has no chance of outrunning them. She is quickly captured by the soldiers. The Molotov cocktail she carries confirms her identity as a partisan. The German regimental commander personally promises that if she reveals the whereabouts of the resistance, her life will be spared. In response, Zoya gives him only a gaze filled with hatred. During interrogation, a German officer accidentally discovers that Zoya understands German, which immediately sparks his interest. But no matter how much persuasion or false kindness is offered, not a single word comes from her mouth. The commander then decides to change tactics and use extreme cruelty to force her to speak. German soldiers restrain her and bind her to a wooden post. She is suspended in a humiliating position, completely exposed. The intense suffocation and despair push Zoya's mental defenses to the brink of collapse. Yet the Germans show no mercy, striking her repeatedly, each blow tearing into flesh, to destroy her final will. They deliberately expose her suffering to other soldiers. More and more soldiers crowd into the room, staring coldly at the scene. But Zoya gradually stops crying out in pain, replaced by an even firmer and more unyielding gaze. This unexpected resolve only deepens the commander's fixation, and he lowers his demands once again.
Я восхищен вашим мужеством, товарищ боец. Так, кажется, говорят ваши комиссары. На свои имя и боль сразу прекратится. Я обещаю.
Zoya still says nothing, only silently scanning the enemies around her. At this point, the commander no longer cares about intelligence. He only wants to prove that even such unbreakable resolve can be crushed. They force the barefoot Zoya into the freezing snow, where the temperature drops to -40 degrees. Her severely frostbitten feet lose all sensation, and the Germans deliberately worsen her injuries. Every half hour, she is dragged back into the freezing cold. The torment repeated again and again. Zoya is brought before the commander once more, but no matter what is said, she remains silent. The commander finally realizes that physical pain alone cannot make Zoya surrender. He then orders her captured comrade to be brought in. It turns out that the comrade taken earlier has betrayed them. In exchange for his life, he has already revealed everything. The officer lowers his demands yet again, telling Zoya she does not even need to speak, only nod her head, and their lives will be spared. The traitorous comrade repeatedly urges Zoya to give in, unable to understand why she refuses when a simple nod could send her home. Zoya looks at the comrade who betrayed her, her eyes filled with disappointment and contempt.
А ты ради чего здесь, скажи мне?
Ради брата Шурки, чтобы школу окончил и в институт поступил, художественный. Ради мамы, чтобы спички не считала, когда закончится. Ради таких, как ты, чтобы не сомневались. Ты понял?
Her unshakable faith leaves the officer stunned. Even fearful, he realizes that if the entire Soviet people possess such spirit, they can never be truly defeated. The commander speaks almost in a pleading tone, claiming he respects such integrity. but Zoya's silence and resolve leave him with only regret and frustration. In the frozen village, Zoya appears once again. She is treated as nothing more than an object by the soldiers, and no one knows what horrors she is forced to endure that night. After enduring repeated abuse by countless soldiers, Zoya is left barely alive. The pain in her body so overwhelming that she no longer has the strength to call out to the villagers for help. She struggles to stretch out her hand, but the villagers' helpless avoidance plunges her into complete despair. In order to conceal their crimes, before the execution, the officer orders villagers to clean Zoya's body. Basin after basin of blood-stained water is carried away, and everyone present is deeply shaken. An 18-year-old girl has been tortured beyond recognition by the Nazis, and anyone who sees her cannot help but weep in silence. The entire village is gathered in the square. The Germans hang a sign labeling Zoya as an arsonist around her neck, and even take photographs. Zoya forcefully shakes off the soldiers' hands and walks toward the gallows with unwavering dignity.
А это дом еще мой прадед строил! Сдохни, гнида! Фу! Ненавижу! Ненавижу!
Amid the villagers' suppressed sighs and angry whispers, Zoya calmly faces her death. No one can truly comprehend how unshakable her faith is. As the noose tightens around her neck, the 18-year-old girl releases her final cry, meant to awaken her people.
Бейте немцев! Жгите! Травите! Нас 200 миллионов, всех не перевешайте. Прощайте, товарищи! Не бойтесь! Сталин придет!
On November 29, 1941, the Soviet heroine Zoya meets her death with courage, but the torment inflicted upon her does not end there. The Germans leave Zoya's body hanging on the gallows for an entire month. Only when the Soviet Red Army arrives and recovers her remains do her comrades discover in grief the extent of the brutality she suffered. When Stalin learns of this tragedy, he is overcome with fury and issues an uncompromising order. Any officer or soldier of the German 332nd Regiment involved in Zoya's killing is to be eliminated on sight. No surrender accepted. From that moment on, the battle cries of soldiers heading to the front are no longer about defending the Soviet Union or Stalin. They all shout with burning rage, "Avenge Zoya!" In 1944, the German 332nd Regiment is surrounded and completely destroyed by Soviet forces during the Battle of Vitebsk. With that, the designation of the German Army's 332nd Regiment is permanently erased. The comrade who betrayed Zoya later returns to the unit under the guise of a spy and is exposed by the internal security forces. He is ultimately executed on the spot for treason. On February 16, 1942, Zoya is posthumously awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union and laid to rest at Novodevichy Cemetery. Even today, many warships, schools, and streets are named after her. In remembrance of this heroic woman, perhaps Zoya's battlefield achievements are not earth-shattering, but her spirit awakens the courage and resolve of countless young people. They rise to shoulder the fate of their nation, unyielding and unafraid, willingly offering their passion and lives to every inch of their homeland. I am a film enthusiast. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.